telling the women in your life the things that you want. It's okay. We'll do the show for you. This is Sarkodia featuring Rude Boy. My name is Animwaa.
The war before the fight, you know they give me no funny replies. Where you they send me
somebody say I'm throwing shade, but really I'm not. Well, thank you for choosing us. Good evening. I hope you've had a wonderful day.
Why you they treat me like a stranger?
I hope you've been staying safe, wearing your mask, sanitizing, doing all the things that you're supposed to do to stay safe.
Well, I don't want nobody.
But above all, I'm really glad that you're here with me tonight.
I don't want nobody. I don't want nobody.
And tonight's show is for the men. So last week we were talking about the things that we as women wish that the men would do, the men in our lives would do. And then lots of you reached out and wanted to be able to speak your truth. So tell us the things that you'd rather we do, or the things you'd rather we stopped doing. Yeah, I heard you. So I'm kind of done with the shade throwing. And tonight my very good friend PG Sebastian joins me. And of course our phone lines are open for you. 0302-216-541. Text lines are open as well. 0244-340-437.
Used to call the boy your baby. Man, I mean you saw me baby. Girl, when I'm in love with you, and I don't want nobody. I don't want nobody. I don't want.
All right, I'm gonna go straight to PG. Hi PG, good evening.
Hi, Animwaa, good evening. How are you?
I'm awesome. It's so good that we're doing this. I think the last time we shared a studio was maybe 4 years ago.
I know.
But it's awesome to have you tonight. I wish you were here with me, but oh well. Zoom is fine. I'll take what I can get.
Yes, we can do with this for now.
Yes, okay. So let's go straight into the conversation. Our phone lines are open, so we'll be taking phone calls intermittently, and also our text line, so I'll be reading that as well whilst we have this conversation. So PG, last week, if you missed our show, the women were talking about the things that we wished our husbands and our boyfriends would do. But this week, we're taking advice from the men. And I noticed in conversation, PG, that a lot of the men didn't actually want to talk about the things that they wish their wives or their girlfriends would do, but the things that they wouldn't do, or the things that they would actually stop doing. Is it because men are perhaps more passive in a relationship as opposed to aggressive? Or is it just women are pretty magical, and so we just need to stop doing a few things as opposed to actually doing more?
Well, Animwaa, that's a very deep question to give a very simplistic answer to. Because partly we are different, we are wired differently, and whether we like it or not, whether it's because of our physiology or it's because of our upbringing or socialization, there are specific things that don't come naturally to men. Well, one thing is when it comes to emotions, we are all emotional human beings, men and women. It just so happens that, we express it differently. So sometimes a man might not be able to pinpoint specifically the things that he may want necessarily, but then he knows what he doesn't want. And, so sometimes it is easier for a guy to tell you, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. But sometimes, when you ask specifically, so what do you want? Then that is where he would have to, begin to actually put everything together. And that's where most of the time their issue is. But that doesn't mean that men really don't know what they want. They actually know what they want, but sometimes it goes beyond just what you want, asking for what you want and getting it. Sometimes the little things that a woman might do that they might not want. And women are very nuanced, which I'm sure you know that. You ladies are more qualitative than us. So, there is nothing like gray, but 50 shades of gray. There's nothing like pink, but baby pink, fuchsia pink, watermelon pink, whatever pink, different kinds of pink. For us, it is pink. So that's how you approach things in relationships, in marriage, in your corporate work, in every facet of our society that you find women in. You find a lot more of nuanced response, nuanced interaction, a lot more of fine-tune, And that's something that may not come naturally or easily to men, because men are straight to the point. We are blunt. We are as black, as white as white. We don't try to, sometimes go through all the nitty-gritties trying to find the shade. So in the process of a woman being herself, being nuanced, having a 3D approach to various issues of life, sometimes you just, for want of a better word, sometimes you become too long. And that is what sometimes men just don't want it. So if you ask me, why am I quiet? And I tell you, I don't want to talk about it. Really, I don't want to talk about it. And then a woman won't keep quiet from there, because then, why are you quiet? Is it because I did something? Is it because I said something? And each time you probe, it actually freaks him out, because probably he's quiet because his soccer team lost. Or he's quiet because he's trying to get some money to probably even surprise you. The money is not coming. He's trying to pull it, and he wishes you just stop talking. Just let him have his peace of mind to take time to process what he's going through, what he's dealing with. So sometimes, like it was said, sometimes it's not the sense per se that we want, but sometimes the sense that we don't want. And so yes, if that was the conclusion, or that was the conversation that came up last week, yes, it's indeed true. And it is because sometimes there's just too much from a woman that probably a guy's tongue is ready to contain, basically, if I can put it that way. Yeah.
So is this saying that y'all, like you guys, cannot be expressive? Like if you're quiet and we ask you, why are you quiet? In the first place, when we ask you why are you quiet or what are you thinking about, and you say nothing, what does that mean in the first place?
Well, basically, it means that maybe at this time or at this juncture, I'm not done processing the information. I'm not done getting my thoughts together. Can I just have some peace of mind? You understand? And I also think that there is a portion of it that is through socialization. I have been told once by a woman that "Beman kasa bebre, me kasa too much." And when I say me kasa too much, it's not because I talk too much, but I feel like I'm too caring, I'm too concerned, I'm too interested, I'm too curious. And this person who told me that because she felt that I was just like all over the place, and that is not what she is used to. You understand? So it basically means that our society also sometimes grooms us or socialize us to be the kind of people who don't talk too much, we don't complain too much, we don't express too much. So we are expressive. We have the capability of being expressive, which is why I started by saying that we all emotional human beings, and being expressive is part of our emotional makeup. So yes, it is there, but probably because of upbringing, we find a way of subduing it. Like they say, so sometimes it's like, what is the point in talking? Everything will eventually land on your lap anyway. Every problem you will probably have to face it anyway. So why are you talking? Why are you crying? Just deal with it. So I think that it is not, like I started by saying, maybe physiologically it might also have its roots, but there is a lot more that is culturally, a lot more that is part of our upbringing that makes men less expressive. So if a man tells you that I don't want to talk about it, sometimes he has something, but he's probably scared. Am I going to say it the right way? When you're having an argument with a woman, sometimes she will not probably listen to what you're saying and get the import of what you're saying. She might probably be listening to the words in what you're saying. So then you are likely to say something you don't intend to mean the way she's taking it. And that changes the dynamics of the argument, or that changes the dynamics of the behavior. The debate or the discussion, because she picked one word that she finds offensive in all that you said, and then she moves on that word with so much force. But when you find a man who's probably experienced that once or twice, the next time she's about to open his mouth, the next time she is about to open his mouth, he thinks twice about it. So sometimes when a man says, I don't want to talk about it, it could be one of many things. Either he's not fully cooked his issue, or he just needs that time, because like I'm saying, we are not as nuanced as you ladies. A woman will process information in the most scattered yet organized way. For us, for men, just give us little, let us process it, let us move on to the next one. So men normally handle issues in a very agile way. And so sometimes the full picture is not ready, or probably due to experience, he doesn't want to make utterances that probably will land him into trouble. Or he's probably not processed whatever he wants to, process and then conveying it to you in a way that you should you should receive it. So then he is being careful. So it's not like we are not expressive. We are expressive, and we have times that we want to talk about sense. But maybe at the time that you are interested in hearing what we have, probably we are not ready to give you that kind of information. Yeah.
I see. That's a lot. And I'm saying that's a lot because really this is my everyday life. But I've also heard, a lot of women talk about the fact that there are things to be discussed. There are issues that have to be resolved. There are goals to be set. There are things that have to be done. And so women, apart from the fact that we can multitask, depending on the kind of woman that you're with, we're go-getters. We like to move. We want things to be happening. We can't, by the time you've thought, A to C, she's probably at Z. So it can be very frustrating when you're having to kind of really just slow down, for this guy who is putting his thoughts together or thinking one thing at a time. And then you find out that communication shuts down. But generally, so if you're speaking for men, what does proper communication look like to you? A lot of women that I've spoken to have complained. A lot of men I have spoken to have complained, and the text lines are buzzing with the men saying, I wish she wouldn't talk as much. I wish when I say I'm thinking, she'll leave me alone. I wish when I say there's nothing going in my head, it means nothing. But mostly I wish that she wouldn't want to talk to me all the time. So what does communication look like to you as a man? Or how do we effectively communicate if most of the time you don't feel like talking?
Well, so that's what I started by saying, that, our upbringing has, something to do with this. And then probably it's also something that has to do with our physiology. But when it comes to what communication means to me, I think that as much as we have a collective culture and we have a generally collective socialization, there are individual differences. And that also stems from how you were raised up, the kind of family you came from, and whether you were allowed to be expressive, whether you were allowed to talk, whether you were allowed to express your emotions and your feelings, and probably even the kind of friends you've had over the period. Two guys can actually sit in a bar, a pub or something, drink beer, talk about one or two things. They could actually be there for like 2 hours, and you can count the number of words they've actually spoken. But they are comfortable, they are excited in each other's presence. Periodically, one will throw in a word, they just laugh at the joke. They see somebody coming, they just look at each other, they know what they are saying in their heads, and then But you don't find that with women. So if a woman is with such a guy or such guys, she finds them boring. So if a guy is normally surrounded by guys, they grow not to talk plenty. Okay, whereas a guy who is surrounded by women, has a lot of female friends, actually become a lot more expressive, because then he begins to understand the psyche of women. And naturally, yes, the person you associate with eventually grow up to be like that person. So those are the differences. But I think that generally, when it comes to men and how we communicate, I think that basically we don't talk a lot, generally. When I say generally, I'm speaking in comparative terms. So we don't really speak a lot. So we try as much as possible to get what we want to say or what we want to communicate to you. You are likely to get a man to open up and talk more when he feels safe. So there is a thing with safe space. When he feels safe, when he knows that when he cooks, he will not be judged. When he says something that didn't come out well, the woman will probably overlook, and there wouldn't be emotions. Think about it. If you have a woman that every time there is an issue to be talked about or be resolved, she starts crying, tell me, would you want to be getting into arguments with her? Or would you want to be getting into debate? Sometimes you want to tell her, hey, babe, I think you've put on weight. But you know that is going to make her sulk for like a month. You don't want to get into that space because probably you've tested it a couple of times. So there should be that kind of safe space where men feel, okay, when I say this, it's not going to be construed to mean something that I didn't mean. Or when I say this, it's not going to be misconstrued. So that safe space is sometimes missing. Then again, we also come from a culture where men are easily misunderstood when they try to express their emotions. Because for a typical example is when you want to have a conversation about, say, finance with a man. He is sitting down, knowing very well that his figures are not gelling. There isn't much money. But then this woman has come with all these beautiful ideas and she wants to get the thing done. He sitting there is thinking that yes, eventually I'll have to bear the cost, but I don't have the money. Some men, instead of being upfront with it and talking about it, they would rather not talk about it and delay the process, so that during the period that they are delaying the process, they are putting their funds together. Some men would delay the process, will be passive in that conversation just to let you understand that I'm not interested. But to actually open his mouth to tell you that no, I'm not interested, that's the problem, because that raises other questions. So what? You don't have the money, or you don't want to do it. And so sometimes you find these men coming up with excuses of why this is not good and that is not good, and then they say one or two things to stop. So communication between or for a man is multifaceted. Depends on who the woman is. It depends on who the man is, where they've grown up, their mental makeup, situations on the ground, whether it's past experiences or whatever. It all comes in. But I think generally for me, as a man, as an individual, communication is actually getting my thoughts to the person that I am with, and in this instance, my wife, and expecting that she would take what I'm giving to her for what it is. And that if she is not happy about it, she'll come back for clarification. I always tell my female friends, and I tell my friends, I mean, if you're my friend, I tell you, there is nothing I want to tell you that I cannot tell you. Therefore, I have to be beaten about the bush. If I want to tell you A, I mean A. So if I tell you B, don't assume I want to say A and I'm saying B. I'm saying A, or I'm saying B for what it is. If I want to tell you A, I'll tell you A. But sometimes, in our communication, you say one thing and the person understands it in a different way. And for me as an individual, it's one of the things that I don't like. So communicating with my wife, communicating with, my wife in this instance, I would expect that whatever it is that is on my mind, when I say it, it will be received with an open mind. And that when I say something, I actually mean it. So if I haven't said it, don't put it in my mouth. Because then what it means is that I become careful. I start editing my thoughts. Before I open my mouth, I think twice about potential responses. And I look at all of that and I'm like, nah, this is not a line of least resistance. I won't even have this conversation, So, yes, it's a lot more when it comes to communication between a man and a woman, yes.
All right. Just to finish up on communication, a lot of women have expressed They've expressed that men do not want to learn, for example, how to communicate. Or men do not want to learn. You know how we assume that when you're with someone, everything comes naturally. Everything just flows. There's so much love. There's so much trust. And so there's no technical know-how of things. What do you think about that?
Oh, well, I think that, when you are with someone, you need to learn. There is that level of intentionality that should come into that relationship. There should be a measure of know-how. Things won't just naturally happen. There are people who have been married for 10 years and still the man cannot get the woman's size correct because the man is not willing to learn. So you realize that there isn't that intentionality. What is my wife's bra size? What is my wife's shoe size? What's my wife's dress size? If she's wearing blouse and a skirt, what are the individual sizes? Maybe contrary to what people may say, she doesn't wear, say, size 14 up and down, maybe size 12 up, size 14 down. Like the nitty-gritty, those little things that there has to be some measure of intentionality. You know that when your wife is hungry, she doesn't like to talk plenty. But that's when you also want to have the conversation. So then she goes off. So the little things you learn, and we learn on individual basis. You cannot even use your ex as a standard for measuring who your wife is. And I think that's what the problem is. Sometimes men go into relationship with a preconceived mindset. As for a woman, if you want to make love to her, you have to touch her this way, you have to touch her that way, and then bang, you are done. Your wife may be different. Probably of all the 10 girls that you've probably been with, your wife is the only one who is different. And so if you transport that knowledge into her life, you're going to have a problem. So yes, I totally agree. Men don't want to learn. And I also, as part, like I've said earlier, it's also part of our upbringing, because if a man has to sit under the tutelage of a woman, what does it make him? It's like basically, so all the things that I know about sex, you're trying to tell me that it's no good. So now I have to learn sex from a woman. What are you trying to tell me? You understand? So yes, I totally agree on that point that men really have a problem listening to their wives. And we see it in so many so many different scenarios when it comes to a man and a woman. The man says, I want to engage in this venture. The woman says, no, I think XYZ will be better. Or don't do this because of XYZ experience someone had. The man will go, hit the wall, come.
PG. Okay, I think we've lost PG there. We're going to try and reconnect. But the phone lines are open, 0302-216-541. Our text lines are open as well, 0244-340-437. Let me try again. PG, are you there?
Oh, yes, I'm here. What, the line went off?
Yes, it went off for a second. Okay, so you can go ahead. You were talking about sitting under a woman or learning from a woman.
Yes. So sometimes just the whole thought that a man has to make himself available to be thought by a woman sometimes becomes something that men really struggle to cope with or struggle to agree to because hey, what I know is what has carried me this far. Who are you to tell me I don't know this? And because of that, it affects other areas of their relationship, because every now and then the man feels he knows. Every now and then the man feels I'm the man of the house. Every now and then the man feels that I'm the man I know, and it shows in even business ventures. When a man says I want to undertake this business venture, and a woman says that, oh, I think I've done this before. I think I know somebody who has done this before. It failed, or it has to be done this way. Normally the men won't listen. Actually, sometimes they go out and listen. They hear the same counsel their women give to them that they didn't listen from other male friends, and then they would take it. They would rather go crash and come back. And even when they come back, they still fail to admit that it would have been more prudent if they had listened to their partners. So
right.
Yes, on that score, I totally agree.
Okay.
There are men who have to teach.
Okay, so a few months ago, I was having a conversation on the morning show with John DeMello, and he was talking about, it was another conversation about, what men want, and he pointed out the fact that one thing that he had observed, in his life and relationships was the fact that women would talk about intuition. And they would say, oh, I feel this, I feel like this. I feel like this is a bad idea. I feel like this person is a bad person. And what he talked about is in relation to infidelity. And, of course, he said that if you don't have evidence, then don't approach me. But I don't want to make this about infidelity. I want the broader conversation of intuition. How do men feel about intuition? And I know that intuition is a valid and a real thing, but I mean, in your opinion, what role does intuition play in a relationship?
I think generally, broadly speaking, we are spiritual beings, whether we like it or not. That's how come, you think about somebody, and then the next moment they call you and you're like, hey, I just thought about you. And then all that, sometimes a thought hits you. The next moment you hear something that relates to the thought, that you realize that there is no correlation between your thought and actually the thing happening, because it is more like a premonition, So, well, that's subjective. But personally, I think human beings are, spiritual beings. But like I'm saying, it's subjective. Now, when it comes to women and their intuition, it is part of their emotional makeup. And so women are very, very intuitive compared to men. Men are more qualitative, more analytical. So if he cannot prove it, normally he doesn't want to venture. Which is why when a man is caught doing something, he always wants you to come at him with evidence. So like John rightly said. Whereas for a woman, it is just a gut feeling. That lump in her throat that she's been trying to swallow, which is not going. Most often, unfortunately, just that intuition sends them acting, as opposed to building on that intuition to begin to look for evidence. So normally that is where the gap is. So the guy is saying that, don't tell me this business won't work now. Don't tell me you haven't done it before. Oh, no, I just have this gut feeling it's not going to work. Please get me evidence. But then that's where it ends. But, I think that it becomes a lot more complete when a woman says that I feel this, so now I'm beginning to dig. Or I'm beginning to research. I'm beginning to work towards it. So for a man, because he doesn't see it, and most of the time, we all talk to women that from day one, we ourselves, and let's not hide it. Sometimes that this thing you are getting into, whether it's a woman, whether it's a business, whether it's a friend, it won't end well. Like they say, it will end in tears. But somehow we try to calculate and try to, measure our risk, and then we get into it. But for a woman, that intuition is good enough. So yes, when you're speaking to a woman or your partner, you get to hear a lot of, I feel like, I think, I believe. Whereas for a guy, it's just straight to the point. I'm going to do this. Oh, there's this XYZ this thing, which is why most of the time you find men engaging in a few ventures. They think through something, they hit it straight to the point. But you find a woman, if you ask a woman to tell you what she's planned on doing from January till, say, December, she'll come up with multiple things because everything is worth considering. Everything is worth examining. And it's because most of the time they are being intuitive. Whereas for a guy, he doesn't have all the time to be thinking and being emotional about things. So he just picks what he can chew and then runs with it. So intuition is very key. Unfortunately, we just keep it at the intuitive level, just that level, without actually developing it, backing it with evidence. And as much as intuitive is a legit and a valid aspect of our being, I think that it becomes a lot more verifiable and a lot more empirical when we back it with facts. And until then, there will always be that gap. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, it's interesting what you say about that. There's a message here from Yao, and he says, as for women, every day all you say is, I feel this, I feel this, I feel that. We are tired, cry. Every day you are feeling. But if we didn't feel, how will we love you? That's what I'm asking Yao, PG. But okay, so
yes. So that's what I'm coming to say. That even when it comes to the concept of love, okay, for a guy to settle on you, Animwaa, I would have probably sat down, done my analysis. I've looked at your job. I've looked at who you are, your beauty. I've analyzed so many things. So basically, when I'm making the decision to marry you, it's more of a business decision. But for the woman, most often you realize that all the odds are against her. But I feel, I know all the problems, but I love him. So you see what I'm saying? So sometimes with all that, we would wish you would go past it. For a guy to make business decisions, even when all the odds are against him, and all he had to do was to listen to his gut. The gut will be telling him red flag, red flag, red flag. But then he's calculated his risk. He knows this woman, this is where she works, this is what she does, this is the family she's coming from. Charlie, if I get this woman, she's not going to give me stress. You let me marry this woman, even if it is sex that she can't give me, I can get sex somewhere. He's done all his calculations.
Wait, PG, wait. Are you suggesting that men choose the women that they will marry based on the amount of stress that they think she will give and what she won't give?
It is part of it, which is exactly why your average Ghanaian doesn't want women who are successful and more powerful than them, because that in itself is a form of stress. I will never be in control. I will never have my way. If I want to go out and come when I want, I can't, because always have to be responding to her. I would always have to be accountable. I would always have to play the part, and I can't. Let's talk about that for a second. The horse has settled there. Let's talk about that for a second. How men feel about strong women who hold you accountable, women who want answers, who push you, who insist on things being done in a way that is above board. What exactly is your issue with women like that? It is purely a cultural thing. It is a cultural thing that is more African rather than a cultural universal, because in other parts of the world, in other cultures, men are accountable, which is why infidelity is a big thing in the Western society. That doesn't mean that people don't cheat. People cheat, but once you are caught, you can lose your job. It's big. Whereas here, where we are, it is the culture is that the man can't be wrong. The man is always in charge. The man cuts the man some slack. The man is this. The man is that. So when a man finds himself in a position where he can't do all these things, the default social stereotype, the free range way of living, doing the things that I want, not being accountable to a woman. And even if I'm going to be accountable, I determine when I want to be accountable. I determine when I give you my phone. I determine when I tell you that today I won't come early. I determine this, I determine that. So even though it may come across as if the man is being responsible and accountable, he's actually pulling the strings in the background by determining where he does what. But when it comes to the wholesale accountability, having a strong woman, it's a problem. Now, the issue with a strong woman is economics. Okay, you and I know that previously, 100 years back, 70 years back, the reason why women were getting married was for economic survival, and probably ages past that. Now women are working. You probably earn the same amount that she earns. and she's probably paying for so many things. Maybe it's even her car we drive. Maybe it's even her house that we are in. So there's a lot of power. And with that power, with that too much power, like those two power, those two forces in the same house, it creates a lot of friction, a lot of tension, because the man doesn't feel that per social norm he is in charge. Because this time around, we are sharing the bills, so I don't have the ultimate say. If I choose that I'm going to switch off the TV, she's going to pick the remote and turn it on, because I didn't buy the TV alone. I am not the one paying for the internet. So it's the little things and the big things. But every time a man feels that his role is not clear, there is that level of contest. There's that level of sharing. It becomes something he's not comfortable with. So the average Ghanaian man has a problem with a strong woman, because a strong woman has economic power. Mostly, the strong woman is not just character. I mean, if you are strong, you are choleric, one way a thing, when a baby all over the place, and you don't have money, really, what is it? But usually, it comes with economics, and it comes with intellectual or intellectual power, intellectual superiority, or something like that.
So basically, a woman who can think.
Yes, a woman who can think and has a voice. Yes, basically, good. You put it succinctly. A woman who has a voice, and a woman who can think, has her mind of her own. Because sometimes, so that's how come whenever we go for counseling, when issues get out of hand, and then you go for counseling, you find an old counselor telling the medical doctor, who is a woman, that your husband is always right. You don't worry, you just go and submit. And it is a problem to the woman, because she didn't go to medical school to become a medical doctor, for her to lose her voice. So that becomes a problem instantly. Now the guy is already intimidated by the fact that this woman has a PhD. I mean, she's a medical doctor, so 7 years of education. I probably have my first degree, and I'm now working towards my master's. There's so many things that she is a little bit ahead of me, even in terms of basic reasoning, even in terms of social recognition, even in terms of salary. So the man is always in the position of disadvantage, but that is how he feels. It may not be a reality. Yes, I've known so many women who are higher than their husbands, but then they go down for their men. Okay. Sometimes still, the men are not comfortable, because in their minds, they don't have the power. Yeah.
Okay. I'll come back to you, because I want us to talk about accountability a little bit more. But I have Kofi on the line. So, PG, stay with me, because we're doing this together. Let me just talk to Kofi, and I'll be right back. Kofi, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Nimo. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I think that the guy in your studio should contextualize it. In our part of the world, our culture and everything is influencing most of those decisions that are taken. If you go elsewhere in the world, women are economically sound, even very rich, but then they still get married, and they give that due respect to their husbands. Our part of the world, the problem is girls have the mentality that the man must take care of the home. And that is the kind of upbringing that they are getting. That's why sometimes I find it difficult when those who talk about women empowerment are not pushing into the head of the girls and the women that when you are economically sound more than your husband, you should take the responsibilities as well. You share it. But that doesn't mean that you lose respect for a husband. Even in our part of the world, it ought to be more. Because 70% of us, I stand to be corrected though, are Christians, according to the last census. So then, where it comes all of these difficulties that we are finding in marriages, that so many marriages are actually breaking down because of some of these things, because some women are earning more, you are a doctor, and so what? I mean, you are a wife. So when you go to work, you are a doctor. When you go to school, you go to PhD, that is fine. When you go to the studio, you are Animwaa. When you come to the house, you are a wife, and you play your role as a wife, and there will be no problems. But to put the blame on men, that men have done this, they've done that, for me, I don't think it's neither here nor there. Because if you look at our cultural setting, I think if you want to change something, you change it holistically, but not drum into the ears of people. You're going to get married today, the man must still pay the bride price. There's nothing like groom price. Why don't you take it off? Because today, if people are economically sound, you take it off so that, there will be no problems here and there. People marry mutually, based on a mutual understanding. A guy goes to the restaurant with a woman. The woman can pay. The man can pay. But if you are going to just leave it on the man, people are earning a lot of money. Some ladies, you can do your own studies. And they are not even contributing anything in the house. All they do is to send their money back to their families, looking after their cousins and their nieces here and there. You can do a show on that.
Okay.
And you'll be amazed the kinds of stories that you hear from some men who are really struggling. So if we are changing these things, let's change holistically. Because today, women are taking our jobs. Honestly speaking, some men are in the house without jobs because a woman has taken that position. So if you're taking that position and you are a wife, you must as well take some of the responsibilities.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Kofi. I have Nana on the line. Hello, Nana.
Hi, Animwaa.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. So what's on your mind?
Okay, so in our part of the world, yes, there is a culture, tradition, sort of influence in communication when it comes to man and woman, or couples for that matter. But what I think is as times have changed, it depends on how you were brought up. I grew up in a home where my mom does virtually more than my dad, if I should put it, because she takes care of us, cook, and pay our fees when she could, buy clothing when she can. So it is not really a big deal for it wasn't a big deal then for my mom. So growing up, my dad would sometimes also do the chores, do the cooking. It wasn't like a big deal. So as a man now with my spouse, she's a lawyer. She closes late sometimes. When I get home early, I do the cooking. I don't see it to be a woman thing. So I think when it comes to the sort of this accountability, how to be more transparent with each other, it depends sometimes on upbringing. So as much as cultural differences and so on also plays a role. And then when it comes to communication, for that matter, I for one, when let's say you ask me something, you want to do your hair or something, or I want you want something, and normally my wife wouldn't ask, but you know, body language. You look at it, you are seeing her each and every day, and you want to do something nice, and when you have it, you do it. But when I don't have it, and she maybe sometimes in the way, you know, she wants it, I wouldn't want to say I don't have it, you know. So maybe it's a bit complicated, but for me, it depends on where you grew up and how you were brought up.
Right. Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Nana. I have Adjoa on the line. Adjoa, good evening.
Good evening.
What's up? I needed some female vim because the men are killing me. But
I think that the resource person you called, he was forthright with some of the issues. In fact, in our part of the world, I think the default thing he was talking about is now causing a lot of problem, because our mothers, our grandmothers, you know, their time, things were a bit different. So, mommy is always at home, daddy is gone to work and that kind of thing. They were full-time housewives and all that. But now, today's woman is a multitasking person, schooling, working, probably parenting, taking the children to school and all that. Yesterday, I was very fascinated with Professor Mensa Bonsu when she made a comment that both of you own the children. Why do you want the woman alone to train her? And then at the end of the day, you end up complaining that, yes, the mother has taken over all the children don't come to you. It is time for men to understand that they have to bond with their children. And how does this bonding start? When mommy is not back from work, daddy is home, the kids can help you to do some cooking. You know, the most interesting thing is that most of them who have been on their own, they've gone to uni and all that, they learn all these chores and things. But as soon as a woman comes to the house, they hang their boots. And you see, you know, sometimes it's just nice. It's not that the women are saying do it, but it is just nice to help so that the two of you can achieve whatever goal you have set for yourself. Concerning the empowerment aspect, yes, a lot of women are schooling now. Some men who probably have not really gone up the ladder of education, they feel so threatened by seeing their women climb up, and it's bringing a whole lot of conflict. And I must say that I have been a victim of that particular instance. Like, even the family thinks that, why do you go in for a woman who is so learned or something, to some extent, and you know, at the end of the day, they think that because you have gone up the academic ladder, you will not probably submit to the man. But it's not like that. The two of them are at home and the man is not complaining. The two of them are living their lives together. So, my dear, I think this debate will go on and on and on. And you need to, you know, fund it so that, because it is not good out there. I must be very frank with you. A lot of relationships are falling by the side. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Addo. PG. So you notice that in a lot of our submissions, submission is an issue. And then obviously a lot of the men who call also talk about the fact that in our part of the world, you know, which are things that you said, what exactly is the issue with submission? Why is it something that men place so much of an emphasis on?
I think that, you know, submission, whether you are looking at it from the Bible or you are looking at it from our culture, it's more of a cultural thing rather than a biblical thing. Which is why let me just be honest and blunt about it. Which is why no church, or most churches, let me not make that sweeping statement, but most churches don't preach men love your wives as Christ loved the church, but they preach women submit unto your husbands, because you see that scripture ties in with our culture. Which is why when you go outside, the emphasis is not on submission, the emphasis on love, because that is their culture. So when it comes to submission, unfortunately, that's what our culture says. Now, because we are predominantly a Christian nation, I'm not saying we're a Christian nation, but just predominantly, we're a Christian nation. You find men who don't even go to church, who don't believe in prayer, who don't believe in God, immediately quoting the Bible.
Believing in submission,
concept of submission, yes, because they realize that their wives, who probably are born again, Bible believing, will capitulate once that word comes up. You understand? And once they make that reference from the Bible, so
right?
It's just a cultural thing, and it is because I also think that our society hasn't gotten to that place of evolution where the man and the woman are seen to be equal, as it has happened in some Western countries now. You know, so I believe that it's only a matter of time before submission doesn't become something that we talk about.
Right. Okay.
A friend of mine once said, let me quickly say, a friend of mine once said that I don't have a problem, a lady friend, I don't have a problem submitting to a man. He should just be worthy of it. Now that is the conversation now. A lot of women will tell you that I don't have a problem with all that, but if you don't earn it, why do I submit to you? And it is mutual. It's both ways.
I get that statement so much, PG, because if you're following what the Bible says, and it says men love your wives as Christ loved the church so much that he laid down his life for her, you understand that it's really easy to submit to somebody who has loved you and laid down his life for you. But when you are questioning the love of this person, their sacrifices, whether they're willing to make sacrifices, whether they're willing to meet you halfway, and they're standing there demanding submit, you're asking yourself, what am I submitting to? Is it to abuse? Am I submitting to not being heard? Am I submitting to not being loved? Can I trust that your love is worthy of my submission?
And anymore, not to bedevil this point. And then again, I also know that not everyone listening is a Christian. But let me just stretch this a little bit. The Bible says that love covers multitude of sins. Okay? And the Bible says that for a good man, somebody may die. But while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. That tells you that your wife's submission counts for nothing if you love her. If you love her, your love will cover her multitude of sins, including her insubordination. If you love your wife, you won't even look at what she's doing for you before you love her.
Yeah. And I wish that, let me just say this, I wish that men would understand so much that, and it's even in our relationship with Christ, in that we are changed. You know, the thing that changes people is love. It's love that changes us. It's God's love for us that changes us. It's a man's love for you that changes you, that makes you, maybe more soft-spoken or not argumentative. When you can trust in love, there's nothing that you wouldn't do. There's no adjustment or no adaptation that you wouldn't do. And I wish that people would know that. You can't demand these things. You kind of just have to love your way through them.
Now we've also come to a place, and we've raised a generation of women who just don't hand over things to men. So when they say, as for men, what they want in a relationship, what they want from their wife, we want respect. The question the woman will ask you is that, have you earned that respect? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, 100 years back, yes, you could get that respect on a silver platter, because, Charlie, if we don't give it to you, we will be thrown out. And it's not just us, our family members and everybody who helped will all die. Now, I've come to a place where I am self-sufficient. So it all comes back to economics. The mere fact that the woman has gone to school and she is capable and also has a voice, also has her own independent worldview. You just don't come around and say, respect me, I need respect, I need respect. Have you earned it? Have you conducted yourself respectable enough? Some people have been saying that some people shouldn't be called honorables because they are not honorable. So you want to
respect. Have you been? Okay, PG, I have Ajiman Joseph on the line. Ajiman, good evening.
Good evening, madam. I hope you're doing well.
Oh, yes, I'm doing.
This your issue has opened a new altogether. I'll start with two questions.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a mistake marrying somebody who is more educated than you as a man? Secondly, is it wrong to marry somebody who takes a lot of salary more than you, the man? That are two questions I want you to answer. Fine.
Okay.
Now my submissions are most women now it looks as if the topic is being based on submission issue. But what I want to add is most ladies want to submit when they see that the man is higher than them financially. Especially those ladies who are highly paid, who are managers at workplaces and they have subordinates. Sometimes they see their husbands to be one of those subordinates. And when we say submit yourself, doesn't mean that lie down for it to be depend on you. Understand? So I think if no matter how high salary you take, you still see me as a man. And most of the ladies, the things that they do I hate most is that they are not transparent. And also, they will let you go and borrow for them to use, and they will use DS to do something else.
Hello. Okay, it looks like we've lost Ajiman there, but PG, we have about 6 minutes. Let me just run through some of the messages really quickly, and then I'll take your closing remarks. Eunice from East Legon says, Animwaa, the love is conditioned on house chores and cooking being done. I wonder how many other women feel like that. This one says, I wish she knew her capabilities, that there's nothing she cannot achieve if she puts her mind to it, but she's too careful to take risks. She turns everything she touches into gold, but is afraid to touch a lot of things. I think she underestimates her capabilities. I am in academia, and that is the only thing I know. She knows how to make money only if she will let us take more risks. And this is from Mubarak Ahmed from University of Nottingham. How are you doing out there? Hope you're staying safe. Okay, this one says the men should know that when you love your wife, submission is automatic. I think we should do a show on submission. What do you guys think? Because it seems to be a really big topic. Makosi says all that the men are saying is that now we're both working, so let's do this together. Join our funds together, our physical, spiritual, and mental efforts together to move forward together. Some things we have allowed to thrive are all man-made, not biological or destined. Let us change the narratives, starting with us. Cannot agree with you more. Makasbi PG, your closing remarks.
I think that Animwaa, there is a lot more men can do, in this generation, because the women that are coming up, the women that we are raising, women who are groomed on two levels.
Okay, I think I lost PG.
So
okay.
Expect a woman.
PG, I lost you for a second. So we are raising women on two levels.
Okay, so we are raising women on two levels, one for the home and one for the boardroom. So the women that are coming up naturally tend to be stronger than most of the men that are coming up, because then all you needed was a woman who could manage the home, and then that's it. But now she's also at the boardroom, earning money, sitting on top of the corporate ladder, determining the budget of so many homes. So that woman is a strong woman. What it means is that we should begin to reevaluate our impression of who a wife is, our perception of what she's supposed to do, what she brings to the table, how we treat her, and readjust. It's a painful thing for so many things to let culture go and to, leave their comfort zone. But this is where we are. The world is no longer going to be in the 19th or the 20th century. This is 21st century. The women are different. We must be different and meet them halfway. Yeah.
Thank you. This is the 21st century. Women are different. The world is different, and you must meet them halfway. Thank you so much for choosing to spend an hour with me. I'm really, really grateful. Can't wait to do this again next week. My name is Animwaa Anim Addo, and this song is just another reminder that regardless of what you're going through, regardless of the differences, she's yours alone.